The Young and the Restless, a battle of emotions and loyalty. Diane Jenkins Abbott had always been a complex character, carrying both the grace of a woman trying to move past her mistakes and the sharp edge of someone who had been scorned by life's cruel twists. Yet, in this critical moment, her emotional burden was unbearable. She could no longer hide her feelings of betrayal. Diane found herself face to face with Jack Abbott, the man who had been her rock through thick and thin, but she knew this moment would change everything. Jack stood in the grand living room of the Abbott mansion, his expression steely but filled with a whirlwind of emotions. Diane's confession hung in the air like a weight he couldn't escape. He watched as Diane, her hands trembling, tried to find the right words to express what had been festering inside her for so long. The accusations of Billy, Jack's own brother, and his dissatisfaction with the recent renovations of the Abbott mansion, specifically, the transformation of the family estate into something that felt more like a corporate headquarters than a home, had clearly hurt her. But it wasn't just the renovations, it was the deeper feeling of being unappreciated by someone she considered family. "Diane, you have to understand, Billy's just Billy. He's never been easy to please. But that doesn't mean he should make you feel like you're not enough," Jack spoke, his voice softer than expected. Diane's face contorted with frustration, trying to suppress the tears that threatened to spill. "I don't need his approval, Jack. But I don't deserve to be made to feel like an outsider in my own home," she replied, her voice faltering. It was a blow to Jack, hearing his brother's criticism directed so sharply at the woman he had fought so hard to bring into the family fold. The love between him and Diane was far from perfect, but it was a bond that had endured many trials. And now, his own brother, the one who had always been his partner in business and in life, was turning that bond into something more fragile. Jack, ever the protector, could feel the heat of anger rising inside him. His frustration was no longer about the house, or even Billy's complaints, it was about Diane's pain. Diane was a fighter, but no one liked to feel as if they were invisible or unworthy. Jack walked over to her, placing a hand on her shoulder in an attempt to comfort her. "You shouldn't have to bear this alone," he said quietly. But then, as he stepped back, his eyes narrowed, and the familiar fire of a man who had seen too many years of betrayal and underestimation flared up again. "I'm going to talk to Billy. This stops now." And so, the drama began. Jack stormed off to confront Billy, fully aware that this wasn't going to be an easy conversation. Billy had always been the more rebellious of the Abbott children, but Jack's patience was wearing thin. He had always stood by Billy, even when his actions were questionable, but there was a limit to what he would tolerate, especially when it came to someone like Diane, who had endured so much to be accepted by this family. Billy's dilemma. Billy Abbott stood in his office, the weight of his brother's impending confrontation hanging over him. He knew Jack was coming, and he knew the reason. He had, in his own way, tried to protect the Abbott legacy. He had argued that the mansion, once a symbol of their family's wealth and warmth, was now a cold, corporate shell, a reflection of everything Jack and Diane had built together but at the cost of what the place truly represented. It wasn't just about the house. It was about the fact that Diane seemed to have changed everything Billy had known. Jack entered the room, his face taut with anger. Without any greeting, he slammed his hand down on the desk in front of Billy. "You need to apologize to Diane. Now. You don't get to treat her like that in our family. She's worked hard for her place here, and you know it. So, fix it." Billy's eyes flickered with surprise, but only for a moment. His lips curled into a wry smile, as if the entire situation were some petty disagreement. "I don't know why this is such a big deal, Jack. It's just a house. I didn't like the changes, but I didn't mean to hurt her. I want the place to feel like home again. Not a showpiece." Jack's patience was wearing thin. "That's not the point, Billy. Diane's feelings are the point. You may not care, but I do. And you're going to apologize to her. She deserves that. She deserves better than what you threw at her." His words were firm, unyielding. Billy opened his mouth to respond, but the words caught in his throat. There was truth in what Jack was saying. He had been harsh. But part of him was struggling to reconcile the changes in his family's home, and he couldn't escape that feeling of nostalgia, the desire to have the house feel like it once did, full of memories and warmth. Maybe I'll apologize. But I'm not going to pretend like I'm okay with how things are. It's not just the house, it's everything, Billy finally muttered, barely meeting his brother's gaze. Jack shook his head in frustration. That's not good enough. You owe Diane an apology. She's been nothing but supportive of you, of this family. You don't get to treat her like this, not now, not ever. Billy sighed, running a hand through his hair. Fine. I'll apologize. But I still think you're all blind to what's really going on around here. This place, it's not the same anymore, Jack. Jack gave him one last look, before turning and walking out of the room. I don't care what you think. Apologize. And then maybe we can move forward. Phyllis's threats meanwhile, Sally Spectre was grappling with her own challenges. Phyllis Summers had once again entered the picture, and this time, she wasn't playing games. Phyllis, with her sharp tongue and manipulative ways, had been hovering in the background for weeks, stirring the pot and making it clear that Sally was walking a dangerous line. Sally had always been able to stand up for herself, but Phyllis's threats had a way of getting under her skin. As she tried to continue her work, Phyllis seemed intent on making her life as difficult as possible. Sally was preparing for another day in the office when Phyllis made her presence known. Don't think I've forgotten, Sally, Phyllis said with a knowing smile, one that didn't quite reach her eyes. You're playing with fire. And I'm not afraid to watch you burn. Sally's mind raced as she listened to Phyllis's taunts. What do you want, Phyllis? She asked, trying to remain composed. Phyllis leaned forward, her gaze cold and calculating. I just want you to understand what's coming. You might think you have control of the situation, but I assure you, you don't. The moment you think you're safe, that's when it all falls apart. And believe me, Sally, when it does, I'll be there to watch. Sally's confidence wavered, and for the first time in a long while, she could feel the weight of Phyllis's threat. Billy, for his part, had been doing everything he could to calm Sally down. Don't let Phyllis get to you, he said, his voice more reassuring than he felt. She's all talk. We'll handle it. Just stay focused on what's important. But Sally wasn't so sure. Phyllis had made it clear that no one in Genoa City was ever truly safe, and the storm was coming. Victor's provocation at the same time, Victor Newman was watching it all unfold with an air of quiet amusement. He had never been one to shy away from stirring the pot himself. He had always known how to push people to their limits, and Billy Abbott was no exception. With a strategic move, Victor provoked Billy, goading him into a response that would only add fuel to the fire. Don't pretend like you have control over this situation, Billy, Victor said with a smirk. You may think you're in charge, but you're just a pawn. And everyone knows that the pawns never win. Billy clenched his fists, but he knew better than to engage directly with Victor. Still, the words gnawed at him. The more he tried to assert control, the more it felt like the forces around him, Victor, Phyllis, and even Jack, were slowly pulling him apart. As Billy fought to keep his footing, Adam and Chelsea also faced their own failures, the weight of which threatened to pull them under. They, too, were caught in the same chaotic web of power, manipulation, and betrayal. The Abbott family, Genoa City, and everyone caught in its orbit were about to experience a monumental shift. The stakes were higher than ever, and no one knew who would come out on top. But one thing was for certain, nothing in Genoa City would ever be the same again. The young and the restless, secrets, suspicion, and deals in the world of power and cosmetics in the high-stakes world of business and family loyalty, Genoa City's finest were once again caught in a web of deception, ambition, and calculated moves. The latest twist in this ever-expanding drama was unfolding behind the closed doors of corporate offices and behind the scenes of a budding cosmetics empire. The shifting alliances and the pursuit of power had never been more evident as Nate Hastings, Lily Winters, and their counterparts found themselves facing new challenges that would test not only their trust in each other but their very futures. Nate's growing doubts. Nate Hastings, the man who had long been known for his sharp business acumen and unwavering loyalty, was starting to feel the sting of uncertainty. His trust in his colleagues was being shaken, particularly when it came to his relationship with Audra Charles, the ambitious and alluring woman who had recently joined the team. Audra had been bubbling with excitement about her new venture, a cosmetics company that promised to change the game. Her confidence was contagious, and Nate had initially bought into her vision of success. However, as time passed, cracks began to appear in Audra's story. Audra had been singing a different tune as of late, her once unshakable optimism replaced by hints of frustration. It was during a routine meeting, where Nate had been expecting updates on the company's progress, that Audra finally confessed that the promised funding for her new cosmetics line had yet to materialize. Nate listened intently, his concern mounting with every word. Audra's admission seemed to linger in the air, and for the first time, Nate questioned the reality of the promises that had been made. "I thought the deal with Victor was a done deal," Nate said, his voice tinged with skepticism. "How are we supposed to move forward if the funding hasn't come through yet?" Audra, who had been poised and confident up until this point, faltered. I don't know, Nate. Things have been complicated. I expected the money to be there by now, but it's not." The truth hit Nate like a freight train. The ever-reliable Victor Newman had promised to fund Audra's project, but now it appeared that the deal was slipping through their fingers. Nate's mind raced as he tried to put the pieces together. If Victor couldn't deliver on this commitment, then Audra's project could be in serious jeopardy. And worse, he began to suspect that Victor may not be as trustworthy as he had initially believed. The thought of their enterprise unraveling, of the dreams they had built collapsing, sent a chill down his spine. Nate's concern wasn't just for the business. He also feared for Audra, who had placed her faith in a man like Victor, whose promises had often proven to be empty. Nate wondered if she had been too eager to trust someone like Victor, someone whose loyalties were often more self-serving than genuine. The business world was full of risk, but this felt like a ticking time bomb. And Nate couldn't shake the nagging feeling that things were only going to get worse before they got better. Lily's determined move. Meanwhile, Lily Winters, the driven and ambitious CEO of Chancellor Communications, was not one to sit idly by when she wanted something. Her eyes were set on something bigger, much bigger, and she knew that to secure her future, she had to take bold steps. That bold step involved dealing directly with Aristotle Dumas, a major player in the corporate world who could make or break her vision. But getting to Aristotle would not be easy. He was notoriously difficult to reach and even harder to convince. Lily's plan was clear. She needed a meeting with Aristotle to discuss potential collaboration opportunities, something that could propel Chancellor Communications to new heights. But there was a catch: Aristotle didn't make things simple. He was a man who preferred to test people's determination and persistence before considering a partnership. And Lily was no stranger to obstacles. "I need you to arrange a meeting with Aristotle Dumas," Lily told Damien, her trusted ally who had connections in the right circles. "It's time for us to take this to the next level, and Aristotle is the key." Damien hesitated, sensing the enormity of what Lily was asking. "Lily, Aristotle doesn't just meet with anyone. He's a tough nut to crack. You'll have to prove yourself." Lily's eyes hardened. "Then I'll prove myself. I'm not asking for a favor. I'm asking for a chance." Damien knew better than to argue. He had seen Lily navigate difficult situations with ease, but this was different. Securing a meeting with Aristotle was going to be a challenge. The man didn't play by the rules. He didn't care about pleasantries or polite requests. He wanted to see something tangible before he made any decisions. As expected, Aristotle set a series of demands and conditions before he would even consider meeting with Lily. These weren't just casual hurdles, they were deliberate tests designed to weed out those who lacked the conviction to succeed. Lily had no intention of backing down. She tackled each of Aristotle's challenges head-on, showing him that she wasn't just some corporate player looking for a handout. She was a force to be reckoned with. It was a tense few days, with Lily constantly pushing herself and Damien to meet Aristotle's expectations. But eventually, her tenacity paid off. She received the call. Aristotle was willing to meet. "Your persistence is impressive, Lily." Aristotle's voice on the phone was cool, detached, but there was a hint of respect. "Let's talk." Lily's heart raced as she heard the words. This was the break she had been waiting for, the opportunity that could change everything. She was on the verge of making a deal that could put her company at the top of the corporate world. But the path she was taking wouldn't be without consequences. The fallout. Lily's achievement came at a cost. While she was securing the meeting with Aristotle, she knew that the fallout would be inevitable. Devin Winters, her brother and business partner, had been increasingly distant from her in recent months. His priorities had shifted, and Lily's rapid rise in the business world had only served to create more tension between them. When she finally presented the deal with Aristotle, it was clear that Devin wasn't pleased with her decision. He had always been cautious, preferring a more measured approach to business, but Lily was pushing boundaries that he wasn't ready to cross. "You think this is a good idea?" Devin asked, his voice laced with disbelief. "Aristotle Dumas? The guy who's known for crushing anyone who gets in his way?" Lily stood firm, her eyes locking with Devin's. "This is the future, Devin. This deal could elevate us. We can't keep playing it safe. I'm doing what I have to do to secure our place in this industry." Devin crossed his arms, his skepticism clear. "And what if it backfires? What if Aristotle decides to turn the tables and use us for his own gain?" Lily's expression softened, but her resolve remained unshaken. "We'll deal with that if it happens. But right now, we have an opportunity, and I'm not going to let it slip away." As tensions between Lily and Devin escalated, Nate found himself drawn deeper into the growing web of distrust and uncertainty. The business landscape was shifting beneath their feet, and everyone seemed to be playing their own game. Audra's faltering business venture, Lily's high-stakes negotiations, and Devin's growing apprehension were all signs of the turmoil brewing in Genoa City. No one knew it yet, but these developments were just the beginning. The lines between loyalty and ambition, trust and betrayal, would soon blur in ways no one could have predicted. In the world of power, money, and influence, one wrong move could change everything, and the Abbott and Winters families were about to find that out the hard way.